I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich.
This podcast, I already know, will be instantly turned off by many people who are already shut off in their mind on any other way to conduct themselves in this game. However, I will challenge you to take a pause today and to reflect on your actions within this community and see how you contribute to its overall atmosphere and enjoyment. NW can be whatever you want to make of it. The game is simply a platform for a story to be told through clicks and clatters of a mouse and keyboard. It's random groups of people coming together to tell their own stories, and the reason why people play this game is fundamentally the relationships they have, fame, power, and a variety of other reasons. Significance, connection, perhaps a sense of certainty, escapism. But this game creates an environment like nothing else that I have experienced. Those who have played this game, generally within the community, can indeed become well known and famous and have a great reputation and renown, whether it be deplorable or incredible. It's a feature of this game that sucks many players into it, and due to the competitive nature of humans, our desire to beat other people leads to the creation of many egos. Many people play this game and they become extraordinarily good at it, or they become good to a decent level, and they start to have an ego that forms where they have to be better than what they actually are. And it's hard to have that self-reflection, myself included. But I would suggest that recognize that if you truly want to enjoy this game, then what I would challenge you to do is become a mentor to new players and open new paths for other people to come and play. Because I believe once you get to a certain level of skill, it is your obligation to look for other people who are seeking to improve their game and go out and help them. Because by increasing the overall skill of the community and being a positive figure for other people, where they're able to interact with others who take the knowledge and the skills that they have learned and earned and pass that down. This is a decision you make. And by deciding to rather be someone spewing toxicity and trying to validate your own ego, you instead forego this to become a teacher and a guide to others. You bring up new players and teach them a way that someone in this community can act and contribute to a more wholesome and enjoyable environment. Imagine getting on a server of friendly people all coming on and enjoying the process of increasing their skills without feeling their ego needing to get involved. Now, I do know a section of this community feels that this game can be an escape into a different world where you are someone, which you are most likely not in your day-to-day life. You know, there's no, like Rocky Balboas in this game. Right? Now, many people put the time and effort into this game, and they think it's a waste or not useful to their life. And this can be true if you let it be. But NW can teach you more than you can ever know. And this podcast is a story of how the community of these players changed my life. And first, I'd like to start with the structure of regiments and how this works, and why I believe that to be an integral system in how many people get started into the game, and why many people still play the game, in fact. And I would argue that the nature of a regiment is a reflection of the fundamental desires in males to rise up a hierarchy and get to the top of it where all the reward and all the successes are had. However, to get to the top, of course, sacrifices have to be made. To be able to lead a line of 20 people, 30 people, 40 people, whatever number you get it up to be, 120 people, to get there, sacrifice has to be made. You have to be competent in the eyes of others. You have to be of a sufficient amount of skill and leadership ability and social skills and understanding of commanding and in-game leadership, as well as outside leadership, how to deal with interpersonal relationship conflicts. You must be willing for some people to get to a very high level, committing thousands of hours to compete and lead a successful group of people. You have to understand how to motivate, inspire, and guide a large group of people and convince them to play a game from like 2009 with you for hours a day. And in fact, there are politics within a regiment. There are people you know who you don't like. There are people you do like. There are ways you have to talk to some people and different ways to talk to others. And generally, you have to understand that as well. Being a leader of a regiment, you have politics to deal with other regiments, or even being a member, you have other regiments to deal with. So all these different politics within regiments is very interesting, and it's part of what makes the game engaging, because you have to do all these different, these leaps and these different dodges. And for some people, this game is just, you feel like you're hanging out with friends. And I think that's for most people, but with all friends, there's politics involved with anything. And I don't mean politics expressly in the sense of left or right, but you obviously mean the other analogy. So navigating around this community can be frustrating, or it can be extraordinarily rewarding. The question I propose is, however, how you act determines the outcome of the overall community. It is simply the butterfly effect, because you know one person in this game, and that person knows one person who knows one person, who basically everybody knows everybody. So your action in the game has an impact to the next player, and that next player can have an impact to 2 other players, and they have an impact to 4 other players, etc., etc. And before you know it, your small actions within the community, how you act, it impacts everybody here. Everything you do has an impact everywhere within this game, and it's extraordinarily fascinating for me to be able to watch this go on. And one of the things about this game is people have extraordinarily long memories, and the things you do cannot simply be erased like in a single-player game or a multiplayer game quick match of Call of Duty or CSGO. Because everybody in NW knows what you say, knows what you do, whether it's bad or good, and it will in fact be spread around. Whether you are a bush pirate, a troll, overly disciplined, a hard-ass, a cult leader, whatever you do, whatever you say, will make up your reputation, what people think of you. Your style of melee, whether you're aggressive or passive, it will impact the way others perceive you. However, this game gives you an insight into how people work overall. Each area of life you go into has little ecosystems and hierarchies. For example, in high school, someone who was popular then, not really popular now outside. When you go to college, you realize no one cares about that. You realize that in karate, if you say you have a black belt, all the hours you put into your karate chop, no one really cares outside. And other people are like, oh, that's cool, but I mean, look. In W, your mother could not care less that you spent hours honing your chambers and your footlancing ability, or that you got promoted in your regiment. These things don't matter to other people. These little ecosystems do not impact what others perceive you. So understand that everything that happens within here is not really a big deal. I mean, it's easy for us to take ourselves too seriously and to get butthurt and to actually feel hatred for other groups. Some people, and I think it's the extremes. I think with anything you have outliers. But NW is a game that takes outliers and you really get to see what happens. You see what happens on the fringes, and you see weird stuff, and we'll go on to continue talking about that. But my another purpose I have in this game and in this podcast is to provide you with a justification on how to use NW as a tool for improving your overall life, and to realize that spending years of your life practicing and honing a skill and improving your social status, that you can indeed change the situation around yourself and rise up hierarchies, or learn how to learn skills, right? Because when you take this game and you realize the principles that you use, you want to try to understand meta learning, how to be able to take the principles you use to learn this game, to realize what worked and cut the shaft from the wheat, spread the wheat from the shaft, and look at what was valuable and what you understand about mastery, and apply that to different areas of your life, and understand how by socially interacting with people and learning how leadership works, you can take your life to a whole nother level if you so desire. Now, let's be real. I don't mean to take myself too seriously and to be like, oh my gosh, this game is great, but it can be used as an agent for change if you want it to be that. And realize that the paths you have taken and the reasons you stuck around can make you great if you decide to harness them. For myself, the reason why I still play this game is because I feel that it only gets better. The year that I am now in 2020 is some of the best times that I've spent on this game. My melee is better than it's ever been. The relationships and the experiences I have are always new and novel and never the same. The challenges of leading a regiment as a North American on the EU community with all these new people, all these different standards, all the cultural differences for every person from every different nation, being able to experience this and to learn and to understand where everybody else is coming from, and to find the things that transcend, to speak the language of melee, and to transcend sometimes the little bickering that people have and the little differences, and putting that aside and just coming together to play a truly great game is something that is irreplaceable. It is something that is contagious. Now, another reason why I play this game is because the excitement I have whenever I'm in an intense group fight or 1v1 or I'm trying to clutch a 2v1, these things that you spend all this time building up your skill and trying to have the journey of seeing what you can become if you want to do that, if you believe you can do something and you pour sweat equity into it and you start to see what you can actually become. The feeling of being a part of a group of people working to win a tournament or a league and beating another regiment and coming out on top as the underdog. These are the stories that human beings are fundamentally built to respond to. The challenge of going from nothing to becoming something is awesome. As well as being in a casual regiment where people are, kind of trolling, not taking things too seriously, just having a good, jovial time, all the way to being an intense role player, being in a very serious group where you get to experience kind of a military simulation like Arma, but not. Because to get to the top of this game, it seems impossible for many people, because some people have decided to dedicate serious time to achieve this goal. And as much as I like to not take myself seriously, I think it's extraordinarily cool to see what this game is and what it can do. I think something that would make this game better, in my opinion, is second chances and people dropping long hatred groups of other people. It's not weird that rivalries form between groups, and perhaps it was my time in the North American community, but I've seen some really messed up stuff, from people getting doxxed to personal insults being directed at family members to constant bullying on servers. This thing marks the game and its community. And for myself, I'd like to say, even me, I can be toxic and I can get upset. Like I had a friend who I was talking to and he wanted to get on the podcast and I said something completely stupid. I'm like, you have no input or something like that. And it's because when sometimes you get in that mindset, and I was having a bad day, but when you say stuff like that, you start to realize that that's the ego coming out. And for me, that's against like what I stand for. It's against my principles, and that's where you have to kill it. You have to realize that you messed up, that you make a mistake, and you say, hey, look, ego gets the better of me, it gets the better of everybody. So having mercy, I think, is important, because I think when you hold on to things and you don't forgive people, you don't let people admit that they're wrong, and you don't let them have an escape route, and you try to strangle them and hold them close to you and say, like, you messed up, this makes it a lot harder for people to actually feel that they can open up. Now, it's weird because I'm not someone who's like saying we should take away the jovial banter, but it is like a dance. It's a delicate dance of being able to distinguish when you're taking something too far and when is somewhere to go, and to make a joke like you're bad at blocking or something. That's fine. There are things that are fine, but generally speaking, I think when you're making a joke, and this is my opinion, but if it's at the expense of the other person in something you're not secure about, it's not too funny. If you make some fun of someone for their weight and you know that it's something that they've struggled for a long time with or they're really insecure about, it's not funny. If you make fun of someone because they're really good at chambering and they did a really bad or stupid thing and you're just like, wow, you suck at chambering, that's funny, right? So it's that the things that we do mark the game in this community. But it's up to you and me and everybody to take responsibility, because this is our house we play in. And the question is, do you want someone to come into your home and take a shit on your floor, or do you want to tell them to take themselves outside and do it out there because this is your house and you want to keep it clean? And what I say is, I want to keep this community clean. This is what I want, and I hope this is what you want. And I will do my best to make this a wonderful place of sportsmanship, and I hope you do too. Because I want to see a place where people, if you're good at the game, and rather than to feel like you have to put up your own ego and you have to constantly spew out random crap, instead realize that by your actions, they will ultimately be remembered. And people will like you better for it, because someone who adds value to teaching new players, bringing up new generations of people who want to know how to melee, who want to take on the mantle of skill and to increase their game, and you can help show people how to do that in a shorter amount of time, because the people who listen to this podcast are people who like to melee. And so fundamentally, if you want to see people get better, it's up to you. It's up to you to be wanting to see, hey, I want to train this person. And guess what? You'll learn more about the game too. You'll learn more about the technicalities and the little things that make the big difference. How to make those distinctions that change you from okay to amazing. So in fact, I'd say that's a selfish reason. I'd say you can look at this game with a selfish perspective on how you can improve as well. But look at it. By teaching others, you learn to be more patient. You learn how to explain something to somebody where they actually understand it. And you recognize if you actually understand what you're talking about and doing. And myself, from doing this podcast, from talking to other people, I realize that there's so many factors that make this game so complex that it's really such a simple game at the same time, because someone could have a computer that's different. They could have different things that impact it, such as a 144 hertz monitor, a 60 hertz mouse, and sensitivity. So all these different things means what you do might not work for the other person. So it's trying to find the general concepts and principles that they can apply that will help them out the most. And that's what I continue to seek to do on this podcast. And I like talking about issues like these, and I know it's a little bit off the main path, right? It's not the same things that, I talk about in terms of Melee. It's not a Melee episode. It's me kind of just giving my opinion and trying to be as honest as I can about this game. And I think some people will be like, oh man, that's so cringe, but this is what I am. This is a game that I've spent thousands of hours playing and enjoying with other people, and enjoying probably with yourself at some time on a group fighting server. Because I think you can use this game to teach you something about how to improve yourself. I think rather than being someone who fits the general stereotype of a gamer who just, wastes their time, you can use this to ultimately increase what kind of human being you'll be, what kind of impact you'll leave on the world, and what people will think about you when you die. And I think it's truly how you act in here it has an impact, I think. Whether or not you like it, it has an impact on how you are, because especially during the times of coronavirus, you're probably playing a lot, just like I am. And I know myself, this is a daily thing where you want to always get better, and you have such an opportunity, especially if you're a leader or you're well known in a community, to be a positive impact on people, to show them how you act is how they're going to act. So if you're someone who's not toxic, if you're someone who's hustling, who's trying to get better, who's teaching other players, if you embody that, think about how you have an impact on those around you. Think about how much more fun and inviting and warm and welcoming this community can be. And look, all I have control over is what I do and my actions. And what you have control over is what you do and your actions. And that's it. So, if you've been a troll, and if you have an ego, get over it. Suck it up, throw it in a trash can, get humble, get hustling, and make something of yourself. But don't just make something of yourself. Make something of other people. Because I like the African saying, you can go fast alone, but you can go farther together. That is the podcast for today. Thank you for listening. I'm Anthony, as always, and this has been an episode of Melee with the Masters. Hi, thanks so much for watching that video. It took hours to be able to compile all the different clips and make it. So first of all, thank you to all the sources I was able to use. And second, if you feel like this video added value to you, please consider adding value to me. My PayPal will be in the description down below. The more support, it will allow me to continue making these videos because they take so much time and effort to be able to compile again. And overall, if you like the video, please consider liking the video down below and subscribing. Have a wonderful day. This has been Melee with the Masters.